So the second thing where we found was that we discussed was crime.
Yeah.
And in crime, actually, the regional dimension becomes very, very important. So this was actually very interesting because it was a completely unexpected result. We had not seen anything like this anywhere. The first place we went to was to data to say, is this data okay? Why are we seeing such a big discrepancy, right? I mean, we might have expected a smaller exponent,
Yeah.
right? Maybe close to linear, but it's significantly sublinear. So in order to sort of make sense, now the data, as far as data is concerned, there's a general problem with crime statistics, is that for most crimes, people tend not to report, especially in developing countries. People do not want to deal with the police, for various reasons. And, this is quite well recorded. But the one subset of crimes which are actually have to be reported is a crime where there's a body, right? So if you look at serious crimes, murders and homicide, then the data is generally considered to be of reasonably high quality anywhere in the world. And even that, when we looked at in India, the exponent is significantly sublinear. So this forces us to ask the question, what is it about the emergence of the Indian city system, right? About the history or the cultural aspects of that lead to this difference, right? Because there was no obvious explanation that seemed to be available, that we could just sort of ignore this as an outlier. It seemed to be persistent and it demanded an explanation. So when you look at the crime data in India, especially of serious crimes, you find that the most sort of salient lens to look at it is through the lens of caste, right? Because a lot of crime, serious crime in India is related to issues of caste. As we found out when we looked at the report of the National Council for Scheduled Castes and Scheduled Tribes, who put out these regular reports specifying the kinds of crimes that happen. And in their reports, one of the trends that becomes very quickly apparent is that large villages and small cities tend to be quite, see quite a bit of violent crime, especially serious violent crime. This is largely driven by, issues of caste, right? It's one caste committing atrocities on the other. And usually it's the scheduled caste or scheduled tribes who are at the receiving end of these atrocities. And they also identify the fact that 4 states in India, if I remember right, they're Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, and I think probably Haryana, that account for 60% of all of these serious crimes. And if you look at the urban profile of these states, most cities in these states are smaller in size. The large cities in India, the ones that you tend to think of top of mind, are not in these states. The Delhi, the Bombay, the Calcutta, Madras, Bangalore, Hyderabad, these are not in these states.
Yeah.
These states tend to have a large body of small and medium-sized cities. So clearly there was something, this seemed to offer some kind of an explanation for what we were seeing, is because crime rates were much higher in these smaller places, and they were correspondingly much lower in the larger cities, right? So therefore, we could see that this was a plausible explanation for why your scaling exponent was less than 1, right? Because rates of crime are actually decreasing.